I was offered to be a Patriots cheerleader. I made it, I got on the squad. 3-hour practices, no pay for the practice. I'm not like a real football fan. I actually don't know much about football, but I know how to cheer. Called the woman up and she's like, okay, come in on a Friday. And then she's like, okay, do you want the part? And I was like, yeah. Twist my arm. And she said, okay, go to wardrobe, be back here at 6 a.m. Monday to work.
Just like that.
Yeah, if they were all that easy, right?
Right. Welcome to In Search of Excellence, where we meet entrepreneurs, CEOs, entertainers, athletes, motivational speakers, and trailblazers of excellence with incredible stories from all walks of life. My name is Randall Kaplan. I'm a serial entrepreneur, venture capitalist, and the host of In Search of Excellence, which I started to motivate and inspire us to achieve excellence in all areas of our lives. My guest today is Danielle Vasinova. Danielle is an actor, model, producer, entrepreneur, avid equestrian, and drummer. She's been in more than 50 movies and TV shows and is best known for her colorful action-adventure roles. And she's graced the cover of many magazines, including Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. Danielle, welcome to In Search of Excellence. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I always start with our family, and I want to start with your grandmother. Going back to the very beginning, tell us about your grandmother, your mom, your dad, and how they influenced your life.
So my grandmother, my whole family was in aviation. And so my grandmother was actually the only artist in my family. I'm Czech and Native American, and she's my grandmother on my Czech side. And she, she was an actress and a singer and a dancer in Prague. And then communism was really bad, and so she escaped in the middle of the night with just a suitcase. And so she was, I don't even think she was 17 years old. And she got bounced around to a bunch of DP camps, like displaced persons camps. And she ended up at this one in Germany, and she met my grandfather there because they formed a trio. And so people would throw like food or clothes or shoes, up on the stage, and so he saw her. And they ended up falling in love. They got a sponsor to come over to New York City.
She was 17 at the time?
Yeah, maybe not even. And so when they got the sponsor to come over to New York City, she went from, acting, singing, dancing to scrubbing toilets because she spoke no English. But she did it, in the name of freedom. And so without that journey and her taking those steps, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
And then what about your mom and dad?
My mom and dad, my mom worked for American Airlines. My dad tested airplane engines for Pratt & Whitney. So completely different, They met, there was like this Czech community in Connecticut, and my father was from 6 brothers, a big family, 6 brothers and sisters. And so from New York City, they would go up to this lake in Connecticut, and my mom actually ended up dating my uncle for a while.
Mom dated your
weird.
uncle. Huh. I'm not even sure if I should comment on that on this podcast. I don't know. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, you didn't know what you were getting into. And then they broke up, and then she ended up with my father. And then she moved to Connecticut, and then I was born.
Gotcha. And so let's talk about when you were younger. Your dad bought you a pony when you were 3 years old.
Yeah.
And you loved riding. So tell us what it was like to have that pony, how it influenced your life, how many times you fell off the pony, and then what that experience was like, and how that influenced your future.
And they called me lead butt because I would just take her down to the end of the kind of area where we would ride, and then I would just kind of had a crop, and I would and then kick her, and she would go shooting off down the way, and I would just stick on there like glue. But of course she was fresh and frisky a bunch of times, and so she bucked me off, from time to time, and I would get the wind knocked out of me and just get back up and start again,
But when you're 3, are you actually getting on that horse alone? Is someone holding the horse with you? Because I've got a 3-year-old, and I can't imagine
I had her from when I was
alone.
3 to 6.
Okay.
So at first when I was, learning, my dad would just take me around, but then I learned pretty quick, so.
So you went on your own on the horse when you were 6 years old, riding around?
Probably, no, before that, yeah.
And then would you ride on your farm? Were you taking it sometimes we see horses on the street, on Sunset, up in a park area. I mean,
It definitely wasn't like Sunset, no. I grew up on a farm in Connecticut, and it was just like 100 acres. And so everything was fenced in, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. But then, she died when I was 6 years old, and then I started going to the Westbrook Hunt Club, and so I started learning, other different styles of riding. And so it taught me discipline because I'd have to go and feed my horse before school, and I would ride all the time, and I started learning how to train horses and then breeding later. So it was a journey.
So as a kid, equestrian was your passion, horses were your passion. What else were you like as a kid? Say, and we'll start with kind of 6 through 12. Were you popular, social?
No, God, no. I was like painfully shy, so shy. My horse was my friend, and my dogs and my goats and my sheep, and those were my friends, I was afraid to speak up in class. Like I never wanted to raise my hand. Yeah. I don't know. I was kind of a weirdo.
Why were you self-conscious? Were you afraid you didn't know the answer? Were you afraid people were going to make fun of you? You don't want people staring at you?
I think all of the above. I think I just felt self-conscious. I felt awkward. I didn't feel like I had a voice. I don't know.
Most actors I know actually talk about being shy when they were younger. They were in their own shell, and I find it very interesting. Why do you think that is, and what makes them want to speak in front of hundreds of millions of people if a film is incredible, or go on live TV? I mean, there's total dichotomy there.
I think that there's a certain level of protection with characters, because I think if you layer that over you, you don't feel like it's you, if that makes sense. Like this is, if I was to speak to an audience, I'd feel so vulnerable.
Today even,
yeah.
Even
like that is one of my worst fears of life.
It's so weird to think about. You're in front of a camera. We'll talk about my movie experience in a little bit, because I think I shared it with you. But the first time I was in a room, there were 40 cameras. There's mics hanging everywhere. There's people there.
What was that for?
It was. Let's save the story for later in the podcast.
Okay.
But it made me very nervous and self-conscious. I had never been on a movie set before. Yet you do that every day, or a lot. So how can you do that and still be nervous to speak in front of people?
I don't know. I think it's creating characters that actors feel like they're protected or they're shielded. I think that's the only way that we can kind of get around it. And it's like a safe expression.
So at some point you got into cheerleading. You were, what I read was a reluctant.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I read reluctant cheerleader. Someone's dragging you to cheerleading tryouts?
Basically, yeah. This girl that I made friends with, like one of my 2 friends, she called me Danny. She's like, Danny, come on, we're going to cheerleading tryouts. And I'm like, hell no, I'm not going. She's like, come on, you're going. Okay, fine. We went and I auditioned, and then we waited for like the list. They post a list on the outside wall, and so we waited for the list to be posted, and I got on it, and she got on it, and then she got mad at me later on because I ended up making captain within 2 years. And that kind of helped to break me out of my shell a little bit, because we had to, learn routines, and we had to go out there in front of everybody and do it. So it kind of broke the ice for me, I think.
My daughters were cheerleaders in high school. It was their true love, and it was one of the best things they've ever done in their life. You're a team, you're disciplined, you're practicing every day.
Yeah.
And it is
were
live
they
performance.
Flyers or
places, they did everything. I mean, at a local high school, no one's really flying.
Okay.
The lightest member of the team is up on top as usual.
Yeah.
And it's a dangerous sport. I mean, a lot of people don't think so. One of the girls had a concussion the first week or freshman year. Couldn't cheer again. Has had serious problems memory-wise, and you take a bad fall, you're up there 10 feet in the air. and someone doesn't catch you right, it's kind of crazy.
That's what happened to me. I was a flyer, and we had 2 new bases. And they go, okay, well, there was a screw up with the schedule, and so the basketball team had the whole court, and we were kind of shafted off on the side.
Yeah.
And so anyway, long story short, so 2 new bases, we're on a count of 1, 2, down, up, and then I had to go and do a pike basket toss.
Yeah.
And land. So they go 1, 2, down, up, and then their timing was off. And so instead of throwing me straight up, they threw me like backwards into a stacked set of bleachers, and I just went, and then just my back just, and then I fell down to the floor.
And?
I was
hospital?
Had to get rushed to the hospital. I didn't have anything broken, but my back's like never been the same. I don't know how I didn't have anything broken, but I just felt like I couldn't even move. And so, yeah, they checked me out. I was okay, but it still doesn't feel right, even to this day.
My 2 young daughters, 7 and 3, I'm prejudicing them to become cheerleaders. Of course, in University of Michigan cheerleading outfits. My wife went to USC, so we always compete which outfits that they're going to wear, but they love it, and they give me a lot of shit for it, for lack of a better word. Oh, I got mommies, I got USC, go Trojans. Let's talk about how great shopping malls can be for us, and how weird it is to have strangers come up to at shopping malls. And talk to us about the cheerleading competition for Muscular Dystrophy Association, and then what happened from that point on.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got swept up into this wild ride. I through cheerleading, we got asked to do a competition at a local mall. And
so was it your cheerleading team?
Yeah.
The whole squad goes there?
Yeah, the whole squad. Mm-hmm. And so we went and we did this, competition for the MDA, and this scout came up to me from Elite, and she's like, hey, I like your look. We'd like to set up something for you to come and test down in New York. And so I was like, okay, well, I got to talk to my mom, because I don't know, I was probably like 13, 14 years old. I was just a puppy. And so we went, and they ended up signing me. And that was cool, because my grandma, she was in Queens and Flushing, and then they were in Midtown, Manhattan. And so I'd go down there for work and then stay with my grandma, and it kind of worked out. And that's how I began doing a lot of print, editorial, commercial work from there.
Let's go back. You're in the mall.
Okay.
The team is 12 or 16 people.
Yeah.
And you're done with the cheer, and some dude is staring at you, basically.
It's a girl.
Oh, okay. Some girl. All right. Makes it a lot better, less weird story. So she's
less
staring.
Creepy, right?
Yeah, less creepy. So she sees you, and does she say, "Psst, Danielle, come here," because it's a little weird when there's 12 or 16 people near you.
Right.
And she says.
Yeah, I think I don't even
weird,
remember.
Right?
Yeah, it's super weird. But I think she might have went up and found out who like my coach was, and then my coach came up to me. She didn't kind of just go up to me with all the other girls there. I think she was a little more kind of cool, incognito.
But your mom wasn't there. You went home, you told your mom what happened, and did she think it was, whoa, hey, this is a little weird? Or did she say
it was weird?
It was weird.
But she's like, if you want to go, we can go, but we're going together.
Right.
I'm not sending you alone.
But did she probably want to do some research first to make sure that it was okay?
Of course, 100%, yeah.
So you get on a plane, or you drove to New York? Because you're living.
Took the train. I think we took the train.
You took the train.
Yeah.
Are you nervous at this point because someone's going to be looking at you?
Not at all. Like I was very just open, kind of go with the flow.
And did you have a goal at that point in terms of what you wanted as a model? Did you even think of being a model before this woman said, hey?
Nothing. No, never thought about, I didn't even know what I wanted to be. I had no idea what I wanted to be at that point. Probably something with horses.
And so just walk us through it, because I think people will just say, okay, well, we can fast forward. Yeah, then you got a bunch of print jobs and your career took off. But you're 13 or 14 years old. You're walking into an agency. I've been in some of the lobbies. I mean, they're beautiful. It's a little intimidating, even for a man sitting there and just having a meeting, it's intimidating. Whoa, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's scary. So did you
like, who are these people? Where am I? What's happening to me? Right?
So did you sit down in a chair and someone's looking at you, kind of like?
Yeah, I think I was just there with my mom, and they had a bunch of fashion magazines laid out, and I think we were just hanging out, and then somebody brought me in to another room, and then there was like a bunch of people there in that room, and then they just talked to me, and they just asked if we'd be open to signing, and
Did you say how much? I mean, that's the question, right?
My mom probably did.
Big allowance at that point.
Yeah, exactly. We grew up very poor, so I think she was like, this could maybe help with college a little bit.
And so did you have a goal, and did you at that point to make a certain amount of money? And do you remember what your first job was?
I think it was Macy's was my first job. But no, I had no goal. I didn't even know what I was doing. Yeah, I was just like, let's go have fun. I guess this could be a cool adventure. I don't know. My mom might have had a goal, because she might have been like, okay, we need X amount to put her through college, but I didn't.
So I think a lot of people don't know the life of a model. My wife has been a model for a long time, and you go there and there's a bunch of people taking pictures of you. Here you're 13 or 14. It has to be scary, like you said, but are you kind of posing in front of the camera? Are they telling, because at 13 or 14 you have no idea what you're doing, right?
I didn't even know how. I didn't even know how to pose or how to move or what to do, and so they had to show me. So
you get one job.
Yeah.
You get the Macy's job.
Yep.
And then things just started to roll from there?
Yeah, well, a lot of jobs I wouldn't get. I would have to, sometimes they direct book me, sometimes I had to go to castings, sometimes I would miss castings because of school. It was a mishmash of things. Yeah.
Right. So for people who don't know, explain how the whole thing works. You get a call from an agent, and then you're on hold, and then you got to go.
Well, it depends. Like if you get a call from your agent and they've already, you've sent your comp card and sent all your materials, and they're like, okay, we want her, and you're booked, that's one thing. But if you have to go and audition, then you audition, see if they like you. Maybe they'll put you on a veil, which means like kind of like a hold. Are you available? And then they'll call you and hopefully book you. Well, I've been taken off of a veil too. You're put on a veil, you're waiting, and then they're like, oh no, they went in a different direction.
Yeah, and then you're hosed because you don't get paid for it. You could have taken another job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an unfair.
Good times.
Yeah, it's an unfair process. But a lot of times you're going for readings or shoots or whatever, and you got to do something silly in front of someone for a commercial, and it could be, but you get a ton of rejection, right? I mean, what's your win rate when you're doing that? And then even at a young age, how do you deal with the rejection? I mean, my wife goes through this.
I don't know. It's probably why I'm still so screwed up. I don't know. I don't even know what the rate is numerically. I mean, it's probably 1 in 10 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. I mean, people see, you're just on a Vogue cover, which is incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. But that was a bucket list check.
Bucket list check. Mm-hmm. What else is on the bucket list? Top five.
Oh God, top 5 for life?
Anything.
I want to, I'm going to Cannes this year, so that's going to be cool.
Never been there before?
Cannes Film Festival.
Never been?
Nope. I would love to, well, there's so many directors I'd love to work with, but I'd love to work with Tarantino. He's on the top of my list. Darren Aronofsky, Spielberg.
Have you met them before?
Tarantino once at the Golden Globes, and he asked, what's your last name? And so I started to say, and then this woman kind of came in and totally just bulldozed, and I never saw him again. So.
I would have told you and given you some coaching on that one. You know what I would have done?
What?
I would have sent him something to his office the very next day, something outrageous, and said, it was so great meeting you. I'd love to have coffee with you. And I bet the response rate would have been 99.99%.
Really?
You know he's in town.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know he's going to the office if he's in town, right? He's got a production studio, he's got an office on some lot somewhere. And I think you gotta hit it right on the spot.
What if just some assistant gets it and throws it out?
I'm not gonna name names right now.
Okay.
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 I was in Hawaii, and my wife knows the story, so I'm not telling anyone the story. I'm not releasing a secret about some other woman. I was in Hawaii. I don't know, this was 18 years ago roughly. I'm with my first wife, and there's an actress there with her husband who I think is attractive.
Okay.
And so we happened to meet each other, not in a weird way, but we had talking from LA, yeah. I clearly knew what she did because she's very well known.
Okay.
And we had a nice conversation. I found her to be very humble. I never really talked to a famous actress before. And it was always like, there was a little like something that, like a spark, but it was, it was nothing weird. It just, when you look at someone for a little longer, it's a little longer.
Yeah.
And then I ran into her again in Brentwood, and I was divorced at that point, and it was interesting. Actually, no, I ran into her at Soho House.
Okay.
Okay, and she's with a guy. Okay, and I didn't know
This
if
was how much
this
time
was at
had
least
passed?
10 or 12 years later.
Okay.
And I went up to her and I said, hey, I don't know if you remember me. We met at Four Seasons in Kona, and this was a long time ago, and you were married to so-and-so. And she said, I vaguely remember that. And still, like, now it was full, I could show my spark.
Yeah.
And then she showed a spark too, but I didn't know who the guy was.
Okay.
So
They were together though.
they were clearly together, but I didn't know if it was a friend. I mean,
Right.
she's with a guy, wasn't holding his hand, wasn't all over him, wasn't kissing him.
Okay.
And so the next day, I messengered over a bunch of flowers and roses to the office. I found out, I looked up where her production studio was, and I sent over that, and I knew she liked a certain kind of chocolates. I had Googled it or something. I had Googled her to find out what she liked.
Oh my God.
So I sent all that over, and I figured, okay, like, she's going to respond. And then I left a voicemail. And I said,
you had her number?
it's not that easy. It's not that hard. I mean, if you want Quentin.
Her office number?
Yeah.
Oh, not her cell phone.
No,
Okay,
not her cell phone. That'd be creepy. That'd be creepy.
Who is this
There probably are ways to get that. I got it later, so I sent this all over to her, and then I didn't hear from her. I'm like, oh shit, like, what a loser. I shouldn't have done this. It's embarrassing. She didn't get it. And it turned out what happened was she had left the next morning for a movie. And the assistant got it and didn't tell her for like a month later. And when she came back in town, she listened to the voicemails, and she was horrified she didn't respond. She was really, really nice. She said, I would love to go out with you, but
oh my God. So you
I'm
asked
dating
her out
that
on
guy.
a date?
Well, I said, on that call, of course I did. Why wouldn't I?
Okay.
Right? There's nothing.
It's pretty ballsy. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right?
I see you.
If you don't get up to bat, you're not going to score.
Amen.
And so she dated this guy for a long time, and we ended up becoming friends. But again, it's someone high profile, someone I wanted to meet. I mean, you do things like that, people do respond to it.
Okay, I like it. Have you ever done that and somebody's just been like, who is this? Like
who's this weirdo?
Like,
well,
yeah,
I did something. There's nothing like positive reinforcement and learning from your wins. I mean, I think it's important to learn from your mistakes as well.
Right.
But when I was also single, and my wife thinks this is creepy, but it worked. It worked. There was when you're single, you look on Facebook and you look at mutual friends. It's a community. Sometimes people set you up, but it's, you want a wider
net.
Wider net. And that's a good word. And I became friends with this news reporter who I thought was attractive, and I'd watch her on the news. I said, that's great. So I sent over a coffee basket with 2 mugs to the studio. She was a Channel 2 reporter, and I said, I'd love to drink this in person with you and have a coffee with you. And she responded in about 45 minutes after we got to the studio.
What?
So yeah,
she was on the caper.
Well, the funny thing about this, and I don't want to talk about my dates or these crazy stories, but two things happened.
Very entertaining.
Two things happened. The first thing that happened is we went on a date, and I nearly died, which is a true story. And that's
What?
I got really sick, and we're going to talk about your illness as well and what happened to you. But I had something similar. I was very sick, couldn't get out of bed. I mean, I was suffering through that day. I had myocarditis, and so and it's often fatal. And so I went to the hospital. You're having a heart attack, you know, and I was afraid of dying. I mean, I was in the hospital for 3 days, intensive care, the youngest person in there by, 35, 40 years.
Wait, you're going on a date with this girl?
I went on a date.
I'm so confused.
And got sick on the date. I mean, obviously I was coming down with it, but I took her home. I don't even know how I drove home. I was so sick, and I didn't get up for really 4 days.
Oh my God.
And then I had to call 911. I felt,
Did she
my
come
chest.
take care of you?
No, not at all. And the crazy thing about this whole thing, that was only one date, and we became friends, and she became good friends with my wife.
Oh my God.
What a
And to
crazy
this
story.
day, you're still friends?
Yes, and she apologized 5 years later after knowing what had happened for not saying, hey, are you okay? Can I bring you something?
Yeah, I know. Where was she in this whole deal here?
Right. Well, I mean, I did tell her at some point, hey, I'm in the hospital. I'm not doing very well at the moment. But
And so how are you now? Was there a cure for it?
yeah,
or-
it's really one and done. So you have myocarditis, and you can't get it again. And it's an infection that goes to your heart. No one knows what it's caused from. There is no known cause. It could have been a germ at
not
Starbucks.
Hereditary, nothing like that.
It has
just
nothing to do with
it's
that.
Just random.
No. And it used to be very rare, and then COVID happened, and it was less rare. And we're going to talk about your COVID experience, crazy experience as well.
I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah,
Jeez
thank you.
Louise.
I'm glad I'm okay too. I'm glad I'm still here, but crazy experience.
Woo.
Crazy experience. So all right, so we're going to get to your COVID crazy experience as well.
But the moral of this story is that we should be sending these
We should be
not creepy gift baskets.
We should be taking advantage
Okay.
of opportunities that present themselves in real time. So you meet Quentin Tarantino, right? And you're now pissed off because some random person comes
Yeah.
and cuts you off, and you're with your dream director,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
I just would have pounced on it because memory, he asked for your name,
Yes.
right? So that's huge,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
And then I would have just hit it the next day.
All right. Live and learn.
All right, live and learn.
Live and learn.
But hey, you're young and have your whole life in front of you, and there's still opportunities to meet them.
Exactly.
And you know the right people. So let me ask this, by the way. I find this so interesting. You're an actress. You're a great actress. You've been in a ton of stuff. Why not use your relationships and say, I want to meet Quentin?
I don't know. I have not been able to connect the dots. I don't
But
know
have you
anybody
tried?
that knows him.
Have you tried?
I mean, I've asked like my management and whatnot, but nothing has come of it.
You've asked them and say, hey, does anyone, do you know someone who knows Quentin?
I don't think so.
But have you asked?
Okay, so I know Lawrence Bender,
Okay.
who used to work at
Yeah.
a band apart with Quentin.
Yeah.
But they are not.
Right.
So I can't. It's not appropriate. But I don't know. I don't really run around and ask people, hey, do you know Quentin? Do you know Quentin?
But
You know, I feel
it-
like kind of silly.
It's funny because I want people on my podcast.
Right?
I reach out to you.
Yeah.
I reach out to Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
I reach out to the CEO of Goldman Sachs, and they all said yes. Right? They're hard to get.
I think I need a pair of your cojones, you know?
They're hard to get. I mean, but why not? You got to go. You got to go after your dream. And Quentin's going to have a new movie. He's going to have a premiere. You got to be there.
Okay, well, I am a Jedi in training, so I'm learning from the master.
Okay, so we'll move forward now. So you're modeling for a while. Let's talk about college for a minute. So take us to UConn and the whole, I'm doing it, I'm not doing it, I need it, I don't need it. And as part of the question is, do you need an education to be an actress or an
No.
actor?
No, you don't. 100%. Sometimes you don't even need an education to be, some of the most successful entrepreneurs, business people in the world have not even gone to college. So it depends, right? I went to UConn. We that was kind of the best fit at the time financially for us. And so I was a waitress the whole time. And then if I could do jobs, I would do them. But being in Connecticut, going to New York, it wasn't always the easiest, right? To get out of class and to go and do these jobs. So I was offered to be a Patriots cheerleader. I made it. I got on the squad.
Right.
And then we
Tell
would
us
get
about
paid
that.
like,
You're rushing through it because I think this is also very interesting. I mean, why $100?
Yeah, we get $100 a game.
3 all-day practices. I mean,
3-hour practices, no pay for the practice.
Right. So what's the math on that? $2
you're in
an
the
hour?
hole, basically.
$2 an hour?
I'm paying them.
Right.
Yeah.
So why go out for that job? What is it?
You make money. You make money off of like promo stuff. You make money
Okay.
off of calendars. You make money off of appearances, things like that. It's kind of like like a cool factor, I guess.
Okay. So was it resume building or just, hey?
Resume building. Yeah, make connections. I don't know.
Football fan down on the field?
Yeah, I know. I'm not like a real football fan. I actually don't know much about football, but I know how to cheer.
So you get the job, but you don't do it.
Got the job, but my friends from the restaurant were going out to California.
Right. So tell us about Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
The difference between Santa Barbara and LA. And then what
I didn't think
happened?
there was one, but when I got here, that's when I found out there's a big difference. Yeah. So my friends were going out to California, and I had always wanted to go to LA because I don't know, something clicked in me, and I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna make a go for film and television. So I was like, screw it, I'm not doing the Patriots. I'm coming with you guys. And so we all just piled into one car with all our luggage, like $1,000 in my pocket, and we just drove across country.
And then you got to Santa Barbara. Did they have an apartment?
Yeah.
'Cause you slept on a blow-up mattress.
Yeah, well, one guy bailed out by the time we got to Vegas. He had already lost all his money. He tapped out. So it was me and the other guy, and we went to Santa Barbara because that's where he had people, but I had nobody. And I didn't understand that Santa Barbara was quite far from LA, even though it's not really that far distance-wise. When you're stuck in traffic, it's like a whole nother world. And my mom, working for American Airlines, she said that there was these 2 good-looking people that came up, and she was at the ticket counter this one day, and they were going out to LA, and she goes, oh, my daughter just left for LA. And so the woman said, oh, wow, what for? And so my mom told her, and she's like, all right, well, here, give her my card. I cast Young and the Restless. And so my mom called me, and she's like, oh my God, you'll never guess what happened. And I said, what? Anyway, long story short, she's like, call this woman. And so I called her, and I was in Santa Barbara, and she's like, call me when you get to LA. So I was like, screw this, like, I'm out of here. Next day, drove to LA, called the one person that I knew from working in restaurants that was living in Van Nuys. And she's like, yeah, I have a loft and a blow-up mattress you can crash on. So I left Santa Barbara, went to LA, called the woman up, and she's like, okay, come in on a Friday. And I went in, talked to her for like 2 hours, and then she gave me a set of sides to read. I read them.
What does that mean for people who don't know?
Sides
what
is
that means?
like a piece out of a script that they want you to audition with. So it's essentially just like a couple pages, or it could be a page, or it could be 8 pages, whatever they choose for you to read for that character, for that part. And then she gave me an adjustment, which means they want you to change something, or they just want to see if you can take direction. And so I did the adjustment, and then she's like, okay, do you want the part? And I was like, yeah. Twist my arm. And she said, okay, go to wardrobe, be back here at 6 a.m. Monday to work.
Just like that.
Yeah, if they were all that easy, right?
Right. So, but let's go back, because you've been in this town long enough now. I know that a lot of people, not only in that business, are completely full of shit, right?
Yeah.
So they give you a card, call me, they never call you back.
Yeah.
Were you thinking, oh yeah, she's gonna call me right back? Or were you?
Well, I was ignorance is bliss, as they say, right? I was very pure. I had not been, jaded yet at that point.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, great. I'm going to call her right up. Like, it's good. And maybe that energy just kind of came through,
And you had never read for a movie before?
Nothing.
Had you ever seen a script before?
Nope. Well, a commercial script, but that's like different, not like this. Not like a proper television script, yeah.
So we talk about bucket lists, and I want to be in a movie. That was in a major motion picture, and I'm friends with this guy named Bruce McNall. He used to own the Los Angeles Kings.
Okay.
He owned a studio. He made his fortune in the coin and stamp business. Bought the Los Angeles Kings.
Wow.
He was Mr. Los Angeles. I mean, he had a studio. David Begelman ran the studio. They produced the biggest movies of their day, like War Games and some of these other movies. So Bruce was kind of a man around town.
Okay.
Pre-net jets, he owned 7 jets, 2 helicopters. Then he went to prison for fraud.
Oh, God.
He bought the Los Angeles Kings and brought Wayne Gretzky to Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
So the city of Los Angeles, the Kings were never good, and then suddenly they're good because Wayne is here and everyone loves Bruce. He goes to prison. I'm friends with some of his old players. And the interesting thing is when people go to prison, a lot of people just say, hey, I'm done. It's like, why? But you find out who your friends are when things bad go your way. Bruce kept all of his friends. I mean, Wayne Gretzky would go visit him in a prison. His former players would. In fact, it got so bad that they moved him to Milan, Michigan, to a max security facility because he had too many people like Magic and Wayne going up to visit him in prison.
Wow.
And my friend said, oh, you got to meet Bruce when he comes out of prison. And I'm a huge hockey fan. I grew up Detroit Red Wings, and so I said, and I love the game. So I meet Bruce when he comes out of prison. We become friends. And my wife and I are going to dinner at Toscana in Brentwood with he and his then girlfriend who he got married to. She was a paralegal on his case.
Okay.
And I go to the bathroom and he tells me, I said, what are you up to? He said, I'm doing a movie with Sharon Stone and Justin Timberlake. And I said, why aren't I in that movie? So I went to the bathroom and I come back and he said, you have a casting call on Monday.
Stop.
And I said, I looked at it, I said, well, that's ridiculous.
I'm going to use that. I'm just going to say that to people. Why aren't I in that movie?
Well, that's. I mean, it's sort of like what you just said. And so I looked at Laura, my wife at the time, and she said, yeah, he did call the casting agent. You go in. And so I go in. I never read or whatever. I'm some building and there's all these young kids around with scripts on the cover, CIA, William Morris. At the time there was a William Morris, and they're all pacing nervously around the room. And I've done well for myself at the time, and I don't really leave my office during the day unless I have to. I mean, my team all knows if people could come to my office, that's better for me. And it's said, okay, I'm gonna go. And they're late. And I'm thinking, gosh, got to get back to the office. This is crazy. I mean, I kind of want to walk out the door, and I'm about to complain that there were 3 people before, so I'm getting kind of pissed off. And they leave and they're finished. The casting agent comes out. We sit down, small, cramped office. There's shit everywhere. And from Detroit, yeah, oh, good. Bruce, yeah. Nick Cassavetes walks in. He'd just come off The Notebook, and that was the director.
Oh my God.
Alpha Dog was the movie. Oh, which is one of the It's one of the worst. It's one of the worst movies you've ever seen in your life. But I did get a residual check last.
But so wait,
month.
So you read for the part? What character did you read for?
Nick comes in.
Okay.
And he said, "Oh, you're a friend of Bruce? Yeah. You like the Wings and Kings? Yeah." He said, "You want to be in the movie? Yeah, you're in the movie." I said, "Just like that, just like that."
He didn't even read you?
There was nothing. I didn't know what the movie was about. I had no idea.
Well, why did they even make you show up with the casting? They wanted you to meet Nick, probably.
I don't know. I thought it was cool. I didn't see The Notebook, but I loved the movie, and this was supposed to be a big deal. It was his next movie. So the movie was about a young drug dealer from a well-to-do family from the Valley whose brother had been kidnapped by a rival gang and was murdered. Ultimately, Jesse James Hollywood was his name. It was a story, famous one here. And so they said, you'll be the cop who interviews the mom of the son who's gone missing.
Okay.
He said, just go up to the set and drive to the lot here. And it says, so I go in and I drive to the lot. I'm a fish out of water, and there's a shuttle. They're shooting a neighborhood in Reseda.
Yeah.
And there's just a shitload of people around.
Yeah.
And I go in.
How much did he give you your, you got the script?
Nothing. I had nothing at the time.
So you didn't memorize any dialogue? You didn't even
memorize it. I didn't even see a script.
You didn't have anything? Okay.
It's crazy. It's what happened. So I'm playing a police officer.
All improv.
I'm playing a police officer.
Okay.
And they gave me, and went to wardrobe. Who are you? What? You're playing? Okay, whatever. They gave me a uniform and a rubber gun. And they said, whatever you do, don't take the gun out of the holster.
Okay.
So, and Nick had said, come find me on the shoot. Come find me. So, the neighborhood's all blocked off with police cars and, that deal. And so I look around and I see Nick. And Nick's around, there's 15 people following him, right? He's in the neighborhood, he's barking to people or whatever. So I go up to him and I said, hey, Nick. And he's kind of pissed, he's talking to people. And I said, who are you? And I said, oh, Randy Kaplan. Bruce's friend. He said, oh, okay. So he said, you have a pen and paper. I said, I don't have anything. So he says to nobody, pen and paper. Someone gives him a clipboard and pen and paper. He calls the policeman over here, and he says, okay, policeman, what would you say if someone's son had gone missing and you're taking a missing person report? So he gives me the clipboard and pen. He said, write this down. So I write down all the questions. And then he says, okay, so I've got my lines now.
Okay.
Okay. He said, go on the house and wait there. We're going to shoot the scene there. So I go there, and all these people are sitting there. They're talking, they're milling about, they're sitting on the couch. I'm on a love seat. There's a couch next to me, and I'm just sitting there, and I don't know what's going on. I mean, there's cameras everywhere. I'm nervous. I have no idea what's about to happen. I'm there for maybe 45 minutes, just talking to the women next to me. She has a name tag. I forget what her name was, and each of the people have a name tag. So I finally went over to the guy who looked like he knew what he was doing and looked like he was charged and said, hey, I don't have a name tag. He said, yeah, you're in the movie.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, okay. And I walked back, and I sat down in the love seat, and I still had no idea what he meant. I had no idea who these people were. And so at some point he said, first team, and then Sharon Stone walks in. And Sharon sits next to me. And I said, oh, shit. And
your first scene ever with Sharon Stone.
Ever. And and by the way, all I could think about is Basic Instinct, how much I loved her as a kid. And I dreamed about meeting her, and maybe some other things too. But she's sitting next to me, and all I could think about at that moment was, what would my boys back in Detroit think right now? They would not believe where I am right now. And so Sharon just looked straight ahead. She didn't say hello. She didn't do anything at all. And I'm even more nervous now. She's kind of in the zone. I finally said, excuse me, Sharon, Randy Kaplan, nice to meet you. And then just stared straight ahead.
She was in character, yeah.
Right. So all of a sudden, Nick comes in, everyone settles down, and he yells, action. Randy, go.
Like who, me?
I mean, so I got the clipboard, and I said, name, date of birth, social, cut. I said, what's the problem? He said, wait for her to answer. I said, oh, okay. The next scene was, she started making these weird faces, like twitching, and then tears were kind of coming down her eyes. And I had to wait for it again. I wasn't sure what was happening. And then it was a cut as well. I'm like, oh my God, 2 cuts. Everyone has to reset because of me. This
You're
is
like,
going
what did
to
I
end.
do now?
I'm about to get kicked off the set. And so he finally said, and by the way, there's 40 people there. I mean, you know, it's very embarrassing. And I'm sure everybody's thinking like, what's happening here? Like, who the fuck is this guy? Because he's clearly shouldn't be here. And so I settled down. So I did one. And then the next thing she said was, "Find my son!" And I was like, holy fuck, what am I doing? It's like someone just like, I got blown out of an airplane. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And so I ended up hanging in there. And then Nick.
But this was all improv, right? You had nothing to say.
I never read the script. The first time I knew anything about the movie really was when I saw the movie.
Oh my God.
It was crazy.
So what did you say after that?
It was name, date of birth, social, but then Nick said to me, like, he comes and he coached, like you said. Again, this is all new to me. He comes, whispers in my ear, and I'm wondering, gosh, you know, he's going to yell at me. He said, "Do you have the capacity to piss people off?" And I look at him, "What?" I said, "Can you piss people off?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm pretty good at that, actually, when I want to be." And he said, "I want you to piss off Sharon Stone. I want you to forget it's her. I want you to go after her. I want you just to be an asshole cop." And that's when I kind of settled in, not because I like being an asshole, but because it was fun.
Yeah.
Like, he was actually coaching me, and then I got into it. Then we take a break, right? And there's a kitchen there. And all the people, like, they all got up. The second team is all in the kitchen, there's snacks or whatever. And one of the women said to me, this woman said to me, "How long have you been acting before?" And I said, "This is my first time." She said, "Oh, you know, you have an agent?" And I said, "No." And she said, how are you here? You know, you have 14 lines. You know, I'd written down 14 questions. And I said, "Oh, my friend is a producer." And that's when it hit me, that her face, you know, she said, "I moved here from Omaha, Nebraska to pursue my dream. And I'm an extra on this movie, and I'm getting paid $250 for the day, and this is my dream. And you don't know how lucky you are to be here and have these lines." And that's when it hit me.
Very lucky.
I was very lucky.
Yeah,
and
that
so,
doesn't happen a lot. And then they'd have to Taft-Hartley you too.
They
to
did.
The union. Yeah.
They did. So tell people what that means.
Like if that was your first job, and so you're non-union.
Right.
Right. And I don't know. There was probably SAG and AFTRA at the time of that movie. Now they're merged. But yeah, so it's basically like, they're basically saying there's nobody else for the job but you to do this.
Yeah.
And so you're automatically in the union. But like if you were to go the route of like being a background actor, you have to get 3 vouchers in order to get it eligible.
Yeah.
It's a whole process. And that can take years.
Right.
And you just got it.
It costs them money.
Lucky. Like, it costs them money.
It costs them money. So it's paperwork, but I mean, if it's a
paperwork is money, but if they say that it's a go, then you're in.
Right.
So you got lucky. Very lucky.
I got lucky. I mean, I hit the bucket list. The movie was kind of weird how the movie was cut. So my lines.
Did you make the cut?
So yes and no.
Okay.
So at one point on a screen, and I've never seen a movie do this before, but it was kind of 3 different parts with lines in the middle. So
like
one scene, like a triple screen.
Okay.
You can see me like that. I mean, I record it, I screenshot it, like I hit pause, and I do have screenshots which I've enhanced with new photography programs that make it look very clear that I'm actually in the movie, and there's Sharon. Which is cool. So you wouldn't know it's me unless I saw you at that and I said, okay, stop the movie here. But something else crazy happened from that as well, which we had a little toddler at the time, and there was a director in preschool class that we become very friendly with. And he had directed a lot of TV shows, and he had just done a movie with someone who got paid $20 million who wouldn't come out of his trailer. But these stories I hear about like the Hollywood stuff is just so crazy. Yeah. And so he comes over to our house, and he's engaged to someone who he met on a movie set who had done makeup, and they had a kid, and the kid was friends, and that's how we become friends. And we're sitting in my living room, and we have a nice home, and he knows that I've done okay professionally, and he starts to tell me. I mean, he thinks the story about my movie, he said, is just the craziest thing, and he loved it. He said, this shit never happens. And he said, I'm writing a script, I'm pitching this thing, and I'd like you to be one of the guys in this show. And I looked at him and I said, I'm very flat. He said, I like your look, and he was very complimentary, and he said, I think you'd be great for this role in the show. And I've never seen a woman yell at a man like that ever in my life, because his fiance had been begging him to get a role in any of his shows or movies. And she I thought her voice was going to split. I thought her larynx was going to break. and she said, this guy doesn't even need it. He doesn't want it. But I'm thinking, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Never pitched. I mean, it never got picked up. I mean, the conversation never went any further. But crazy stuff happens when you're not expecting it, right?
Or you know the right people.
Or you know the right people. So let's talk about that for a second.
First movie with Sharon Stone. You did all right. You did good.
And she's been on my show. She was my second guest.
No way. Who was your first?
Sam Zell, who is a real estate entrepreneur, icon, philanthropist, and amazing mentor. So, do
you know most of these people, or how do you find
at
everyone?
This point? So Sam Zell had been a mentor to me for a long time. He was a Forbes 400 guy, and someone had written a piece about me when my tech company went public, and then I'm from Detroit, and Sam's name is all over the University of Michigan. He had donated hundreds of millions of dollars, and I just joined the board there. And the reporter who wrote this profile, which I didn't want to cooperate with, and he said, I'm going to write it with you or without you, so you cooperate to influence the outcome of the story. It came out, and it was very complimentary, and he asked me that day, do you want to meet Sam Zell? I'm thinking, there's no way this reporter knows Sam.
Yeah.
Right? And so he hangs up, called me back. He said, Sam would like to meet you. Sam had this amazing house out in Malibu, and he comes every weekend, based in Chicago, and he became a mentor and a good friend of mine. So that was my first guest, and Sam is an icon in the business world.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows him. He's an amazing person. We're friends. I'd never really said, hey, would you do something for me? I mean, we didn't have that kind of relationship. So I was very nervous when I called. I told him what I want to do. I said, I'm going to do this podcast. And I was very nervous. He just said, yeah, I would love to do it. So then I had Sam, and I knew, I mean, for the credibility purposes, that would be great for the business sense. And then Sharon's good friend, Price, Arana, hi Price, is best friends with Sharon. And so I'd become friends with Price, and I told her what I want to do. And Sharon ultimately, I had to get through her team. And her team had canceled a whole bunch of times. Sharon didn't know about it any way, and she was very pissed when she found out. So
that happens sometimes.
And I went to dinner with Sharon and Price, and Sharon and I become very good friends. She's amazing. And then my third guest was Cliff Kingsbury, who's a football coach. And so at that point, I just used relationships that I had and asked people that I knew or knew of. Most I knew. And then I built some momentum because I had some very high quality guests, but a lot of them I just were cold emails. Mark Cuban was an email.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he wrote back in 4 minutes. Mark responds to all of his emails, by the way. Not that I want to cause 2,000 emails coming into his inbox today, but Mark had been in the technology business and had a competing company with mine, so I did mention that. So I've been lucky. Referrals have been great. You tell people about your show, and I was at dinner last night with somebody for a birthday party, and they said, hey, what about so-and-so? I'm friends with them. Would you want them on your show? I said, I'd love them on my show.
Yeah.
So I have no idea if that, so you build.
What was the greatest piece of advice your mentor, your first guest, gave to you?
It's okay to stand alone and be different. He was a contrarian, and his what I thought was the best line and he made a career He said, I didn't understand it when everybody was going this way. I was the only one going this way.
I like the voice.
And I mean, that's how he talks. He passed away last year, but he had a very gravelly voice.
Yeah. Did you always feel like that? Like, did you feel like you didn't fit in?
It wasn't that I fit in. I mean, I've made a career out of doing things that no one else has done before. And sometimes you do things and people will criticize you and say, oh, you know, no one's done that before. They mean it as a criticism, and I take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
So the coaching I do, I say, you know, who does that? And people say, no one. And I say, that's exactly why you should.
Boom.
Right? Stand out. Quentin Tarantino. Who does that? Nobody, which is exactly why you should, and which you will the next time.
Okay, deal.
Thanks for listening to part one of my amazing conversation with Danielle Vasinova, an actor, producer, entrepreneur, avid equestrian, and model who's graced the cover of many magazines, including Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. Be sure to tune in next week for part two of my awesome conversation with Danielle.